2008 Wimbledon Final. If aliens landed on Earth someday and asked, "Show us your finest example of sports," this match right here, this is what I'll show them. Roger Federer, the king of grass. Rafael Nadal, the relentless warrior. Both were in their prime in this game and were obsessed with destroying each other. And then the show began. Nadal took the first two sets, but Federer fought back to win the next two in tiebreaks, the second one 10-8, which had the entire center court on edge. The match was halted with rain, and the delays made it stretch into the evening. When it was time for the fifth set, it got so dark that the players could barely see the ball. But you know these two, they kept on going. At 9-7 in the fifth, Nadal collapsed to the ground after winning the battle and the championship. It was his first ever Wimbledon title. He put an end to Federer's 5-year run. It was historic. But that match? It was one for the ages. Even Federer fans can't deny it. This was just the greatest match in the history of the sport between two of the best. This match had everything. A rivalry at its peak, an audience on the edge of their seats, and a finish so dramatic it felt like a script from an Oscar-winning movie. And the moment Nadal won the title, it was one of the greatest moments of the sport. 2012 Australian Open Final. If you ever want to watch two guys torture each other for nearly 6 hours, you can watch this game, because that's exactly what happened in the longest Grand Slam final ever. Djokovic and Nadal were going against each other. Little did anyone know that this match would go down in the history books. The match was already historical because two of the greats were playing, but boy oh boy, none of them was ready to accept defeat. Those two guys put each other through physical hell. They weren't just playing tennis, they were surviving it. Djokovic dropped the first set, but came roaring back. At one point, both players had run more than 6 kilometers on court. Imagine that. They were chasing balls like golden retrievers, refusing to give even a centimeter to the other. The fifth set, though, it was a slugfest. Djokovic eventually prevailed 5-7, 6-4, 6-2, 6-7, 7-5. When it was time for the trophy ceremony, both players looked dead inside, and you can't blame them considering what they went through. Djokovic even had to sit down mid-speech, and Nadal? His face was completely blank. It wasn't just a tennis game, it was a psychological war. And that day, fans witnessed tennis reach its physical peak. Isner versus Mahut. You know a match is legendary when the scoreboard can't even keep up with the scores. I mean, it only has one job to do, and when it can't even do that, something crazy must have happened. And this match was just that. It wasn't a classic in the traditional sense. It wasn't about technique or drama or even who was better. This match was all about who would collapse first, who run out of gas and just give up. John Isner versus Nicolas Mahut in Wimbledon 2010. The match lasted 3 days. Not 3 sets, 3 actual days. The fifth set alone was 8 hours and 11 minutes. Isner finally prevailed and won it by 70-68, and the total match time was over 11 hours. The scoreboard literally broke. Ball boys were swapped out like pit crew, and the fans? Well, they had no idea what was going on. They just wanted the match to end. It wasn't the prettiest game of tennis, but it was one of the most ridiculous, absurdly great matches the sport has ever seen. And fortunately for all of us, something like this will never happen again, because after this endurance test of a match, the rules were changed, and now there's a tiebreak at 6-6 in the final set. Wimbledon 2019 Final. Obviously, a match will be worth mentioning here when players like Federer and Djokovic go up against each other, right? But Federer won't be as happy talking about this match as I am. Because if 2008 was Roger's heartbreak, this one was pure devastation. Federer was 37 years old at the time, playing arguably the best grass court match of his life. He was doing it all, dominating the rallies, winning more points, hitting more winners. But then came the 2 match points on his serve. Federer was just 2 swings away from an unbelievable 9th Wimbledon title, but Djokovic was having none of it. With ice in his veins, Novak saved both, and then he won the tiebreak again. It's not like Djokovic won more points in the match, he just won the ones that mattered. The final score? 7-6, 1-6, 7-6, 4-6, 13-12. It was the first final ever decided by a 5th set tiebreak, and it still haunts Federer fans. They still wake up sweating from the memory. And Djokovic? He once again proved why he's one of the most mentally unshakable players in history. 2003 Australian Open Final. Now, let's talk about GOAT-level sibling rivalry. You already guessed who it is, didn't you? Obviously, it's Serena and Venus Williams. By 2003, Serena and Venus had faced off in 3 straight Grand Slam finals. Venus won the early battles, but Serena was the one dominating their head-to-heads after that. In Melbourne, the pressure was insanely high for both of them, especially for Serena. Not just because she was facing her legendary sister, but because Serena was on the verge of doing something special, holding all 4 majors at once. And that match? It was a roller coaster. Serena edged out the first set in a tiebreak, dropped the second, and fought tooth and nail in the third. Venus, on the other hand, was hitting lasers, but Serena was focused and she dug in, finding the next gear that only true champions have. Serena won 7-6, 3-6, 6-4. And just like that, she made history. She completed what we call the Serena Slam. It was one of the most historic moments in the game. It proved that women's tennis wasn't just strong, it was powerful, fast, technical, and full of emotion. 2019 US Open Final. Nadal vs Medvedev. At first, this game didn't look like a classic. It was clear that Nadal was going to roll over Medvedev. He was cruising swiftly, up 2 sets in a break. Medvedev looked completely cooked. But then, Medvedev channeled his inner energy, and the comeback began. The Russian started hitting the ball with more precision and less fear. He was on his way to pulling off something special. Medvedev took the 3rd set, then the 4th, and suddenly, it was a 5th set at the US Open. With a Grand Slam on the line and Nadal's aging body was trying to hold off a 23-year-old wonder kid who wasn't ready to quit. The rallies got longer, the crowd got louder, and Nadal looked rattled. But we all know that champions are built different, and they always survive. And Nadal? He's a true champion. This win wasn't just about survival, it gave him his 19th Grand Slam title, bringing him just 1 behind Federer. The stakes were massive. When it looked like he had no gas left in his tank, Nadal dug deep and ended up winning it 7-5, 6-3, 5-7, 4-6, 6-4. The celebrations weren't of joy, they were of relief. Tears flowed and the crowd gave him a standing ovation like it was a retirement ceremony. And Medvedev? He had arrived, but Rafa had endured. 1,980 Wimbledon final. Let's rewind back to the 80s for a while. Bjorn Borg, calm, cold, and calculated. Going up against John McEnroe, who was loud and explosive, punk rock in a tennis outfit. Their Wimbledon 1,980 final was pure cinematic gold. That 4th set tiebreak is one of the most iconic in history. 22 minutes, 34 points, 18-16 to McEnroe. The match was so amazing that people were literally on the edge of their seats, and some were even praying. But instead of collapsing and giving away the match, Borg came back to take the 5th set 8-6. This wasn't just another final, it was Borg's 5th straight Wimbledon title and the last Grand Slam final he would ever win. What made this contest more than a match was the contrast of their personalities. It was like a Broadway show. You had McEnroe yelling at umpires mid-rally and Borg with a heart rate of 40, and together they created one of the most legendary finals ever played in the sport. 2002 Australian Open Final. Jennifer Capriati's comeback story is already legendary, but this match made her mythical. Down 6-4 and 4-0, Capriati looked done and dusted. Hingis could already feel her hands touching the Slam title, but Capriati, the kind of player she was, refused to leave. She started clawing her way back under the blazing Melbourne sun where the temperatures soared above 40 degrees centigrade. Imagine playing in that heat and still end up saving 4 championship points. 4. That's exactly what Jennifer did. As the match flipped, so did the energy. Hingis lost her cool and Capriati went full Terminator. The final score was 4-6, 7-6, 6-2. This wasn't just a win for Jennifer. It was redemption, grit, and mental steel forged through years of struggle. And it was also one of the greatest comebacks in Grand Slam history. Wimbledon 2023 Final. Djokovic vs Alcaraz. The past versus the future. This match was already a classic before it even began. Novak had been unbeaten on center court for 10 years. And Alcaraz? Just 20 years of age and already world number 1. Oh, and let's not forget, Novak had already won the Australian Open and French Open that year and was 2 wins away from a calendar slam. Djokovic crushed Alcaraz in the first set 6-1. People thought, okay, the kid's not ready yet. Then came the second set tiebreak. 26 minutes of mind games and ridiculous rallies. Alcaraz edged it, and that changed the course of the match. He broke Djokovic in a game that lasted 13 deuces. It looked like Novak couldn't keep up with him. Carlos started hitting drop shots that should have been illegal, and he somehow won the game 1-6, 7-6, 6-1, 3-6, 6-4. Alcaraz didn't just win Wimbledon, he put an end to a decade of Novak's domination and stopped him from chasing history. 1992 French Open Final. Seles vs. Graf, the clash of two titans in Paris. Steffi Graf was already a legend at the time, and Monica Seles? She was just 18 years of age, but already a Grand Slam monster. Seriously, at that age, she had already won 7 slams. She was taking over the sport like a storm. This match had drama, nerves, and an epic final set that went to 10-8. Both of them were hammering ground strokes and refusing to give an inch. Graf's slice was carving up the court, and Seles was grunting with every backhand like she was knocking down walls. The final moments of the match were brutal. Seles eventually broke through and collapsed in disbelief. She had now won 5 of the last 6 slams, and this match felt like the official changing of the guard. She was supposed to go a long way in the sport, but her tragic stabbing the following year halted her dominance. But as far as this match is concerned, it was peak Seles, fearless, focused, and unbeatable. If you enjoyed this one, subscribe to the channel because I'll be posting a lot here. Until next time.